Wild weather and rising rivers are causing havoc across Adelaide Hills and parts of Victoria. A series of cold fronts combined with warmer-than-average ocean conditions have produced higher than normal falls across the soaked states. And forecasters say while the worst may be over for now, another big deluge is expected to hit southeastern Australia next week. Authorities are also repeating warnings for people to take extra care after 11 flood rescues in the past 2 days in Victoria. Ballarat has been hit with its heaviest rainfalls since 1921 in just 3 days. The town of Beaufort also had its heaviest rainfalls in a 72-hour period since 1911, and Wedderburn its wettest 3 days since 1916. The Bureau of Meteorology reveals. Weatherzone meteorologist Ben Domensino told News.Com, "Oh, the rains were easing for now, but warned more was certainly on the way." Mr. Domensino said while Victoria would have a slight reprieve today and tomorrow, the state is expected to cop another drenching as two different systems move across eastern Australia. The current rains are tapering off as a high-pressure system moving across eastern Australia produces dry conditions, he said. But he said the next systems were a cause for concern. A cold front moving across the Bight will hit western Victoria on Saturday, he said, while modelling predicts up to 10 mm to 20 mm of rain. Mr. Domensino said this would be enough to cause widespread flooding, with northeastern Victoria already waterlogged from its wettest winter in 20 years. Looking further ahead, a low-pressure trough will move through Queensland and New South Wales on Tuesday, he said. This is expected to bring heavy falls to those areas as moisture from the tropics feeds that system. Northeast Victoria could receive even more rain again then. A prediction of 20 mm of rain doesn't sound like much. But the concern is these two systems will add to the waterlogged conditions, he said. While this is good news for soil moisture levels, it certainly has the potential to be dangerous in the short term due to catchments being so full. The BOM also warned a low-pressure system developing across western Victoria and was likely to produce more rain across already saturated catchments. Senior forecaster at the BOM National Operations Centre Dean Narramore said we could expect a series of widespread and heavy falls by mid-next week. South Australia has had some heavy falls this week, with areas such as the Mount Lofty Ranges getting as much as 100 mm since 9 a.m. yesterday, he said. Victoria has had between 50 to 88 mm, but a break is ahead. Conditions are expected to ease today as the rain heads into Queensland before clearing across most of the country by Friday. Rain is expected to develop across northern Queensland, the NT, South Australia and Victoria by Saturday before easing again. But the dry break won't last long, as Mr. Narramore said it was a case of weather systems lining up one after another, while the wild weather produced a whole heap of wet across Victoria. It was a godsend for snow bunnies. The Victorian Alpine resort of Falls Creek was cheering thanks to a fresh dumping #snow at #Fells Creek. The tableometer tells the story. Still #snowing temp -2.5 degrees Celsius. #happy days at Melbourne Pic. Twitter.com, JKVVK99. Wild weather in spring is not unusual in spring, as this video shows of a storm rolling over the canola fields in Ocean Grove. A stunning time-lapse video of storm clouds moving over a field in Victoria from September 14, 2015, has been posted online for the first time. 1 year later, the video shows a canola field being enveloped by storm clouds, which then cover the Ocean Grove region in darkness. The uploader said the video captured the beginning of storm season in 2015, and its release coincided with some of Victoria's worst flooding of 2016. Credit. YouTube. Brendan Calwell. Victoria now has 12 local government areas affected by floods while more than 100 roads remain closed. The Herald-Sun reported, warnings remain in place for the west and south coast regions, with landslides already forcing the closure of the Great Ocean Road yesterday. Multiple flood watches and warnings across most of #Victoria. Major flooding in northwest https t://co/hls2u/yofag pic. Twitter.com T1FV6ZWF9. Northwestern Victoria, particularly around Bendigo, Swan Hill and Horsham and Melbourne are expected to be hit with more rain in coming days. Farmers remain on alert with fears the deluge will wipe out crops while 45 homeowners have already been evacuated in the town of Hamilton, which received more than double the average rainfall in September. Severe weather update. Rain and a flooding in eastern Oz. Current at 11 a.m. AEST 14/9. Info. https t://co/qm1 Nahusa 4 pic. Twitter.com E25JPMUN8. Crop and livestock farmer Luke Milgate, whose property is on the Loddon River, told the Herald-Sun, the deluge threatened to ruin his best crop in years. The wheat crop looked sensational a week ago, but now at least a third of it has fallen over. It is disheartening, he said. The towns of Maryborough, Clunes, Carisbrook, Castlemaine and Charlton are among the hardest hit by the recent deluge. Victoria State Emergency Service, VICSES, is urging Victorians to remain vigilant and warned the flood message wasn't getting through. It comes as police hold grave concerns for a driver who remains missing after his ute was swept up in floodwaters in Wallacedale. The man entered the waters on Wallacedale Viaduct Road yesterday afternoon. However, authorities were unable to find any trace of the man. The ABC reported. Conditions are expected to improve today, but with more wet weather on the way, authorities have repeated warnings for people to take extra care. Warnings remain in place for the Loddon, Avoca, Wimmera, Glenelg, and Hopkins rivers. VICSES Chief Officer Operations Trevor White said it was vital that people remain vigilant, especially as the grounds are already saturated from so much rain in recent weeks. We remind people to never drive through floodwater. It only takes about 15 centimeters of water to lose control of your vehicle, he said. Flooding in the southwest Victorian town of Coleraine inundated homes and roads after the Glenelg River burst its banks on September 10/11 after a period of heavy rainfall. Renewed flooding hit the town on September 14, as torrential rains flooded the area. This drone footage, taken on September 11 and 14, shows an area of town close to Bryan Creek and the extent of the water damage. More rain was forecast to hit the Glenelg area on September 14. According to the Bureau of Meteorology. Credit. Facebook. Vickery Brothers. South AUSTRALI. Meanwhile, the worst of the weather seems to be over for flood-hit South Australia, which has been battered by heavy rain and wild weather. Authorities are now facing a massive clean-up operation while flood warnings remain in place for several areas. Authorities remain concerned that swollen catchments will spill over, with fears even the smallest amount of extra rain could be potentially devastating. Flood warnings remain in place for a number of rivers across the southeast of the state, including the North Parra, Onkaparinga as well as the Angus and Bremer rivers. The Advertiser reported. Thousands of people were affected by the wild weather yesterday, while the SES continues to answer calls for help. Across the world, weather seems to be becoming more extreme. But could it all be down to a phenomenon called the jet stream? Could it be blamed for everything from Hurricane Sandy to the recent freezing winters?